And so by the time you get there, then you've got the catch 22 of, hey, we need better processes in order to do this. And we don't have time to go build those processes. And the reason we don't have time to build the processes is because we don't have those processes in the first place. So,
hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the High Level Spotlight Sessions, where we showcase awesome marketers doing awesome marketing. Today, I'm super excited to be joined by Gray Mackenzie. Gray is the founder of Zen Pilot, which has helped over 1,800 agencies streamline their operations. Gray, thanks so much for coming on.
yeah, Chase, I appreciate the opportunity to be here and excited to dig into it today.
I'm super excited to talk to you. I used to run operations for a seven-figure agency. And so this kind of stuff was very much my day-to-day, building systems, constantly reevaluating systems, trying to make them better and more efficient. Gray, as an efficiency operations system expert, why is it so hard? I feel like most agencies take a stab at creating systems, but I'm sure when you get in there, that most of them are not very great or effective.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you got the first kind of piece of the deck that's stacked against people is nobody's really coming into the marketing agency field, or very few people come into the agency field out of, an operational background. It's a lot of creative folks who get drawn to the field. So I think that's a piece, but then you've got all these different hurdles to get over in any business. There's the idea, and then you got to figure out how to sell it to somebody. And then once you sell it to somebody, you got to figure out how to sell it or how to deliver on it. And then once you deliver on it, you got to figure out how to sell it at scale and then deliver on it at scale. And that's kind of the piece of the puzzle that we're focused on is like, how do you deliver this stuff? How do you do good work for your clients with any kind of scale? And so by the time you get there, then you've got the catch 22 of, hey, we need better processes in order to do this. And we don't have time to go build those processes. And the reason we don't have time to build the processes is because we don't have those processes in the first place. So I think it's the natural
spiral of death.
Natural state of any agency.
Man, it's so true. It's like you have to find the time to build them, but it's so hard to find that time. And the reason you have no time, like you said, is because you don't have the processes that give you more time back. I was really intrigued when we were chatting the other day to learn that you had actually, I love this story where I feel like most agencies before HighLevel came along, we certainly evolved to a point where we're like, man, we're tired of tying these things together. Are we just going to have to start building a software? Like, are we going to have to become a software company? Are we going to have to spend that money, take that risk, not really knowing what we're doing? And luckily HighLevel came along and we and so many other agencies didn't have to go down that road. But on the productivity side, you actually did. So you spent over $1 million building a software?
Yeah, we went through all the initial stages of trying to get traction, trying to sell. Our agency started out of our college dorm room, myself and my business partner, Andrew, back in, I guess, spring of 2011 is when we officially filed the paperwork. And so our big turning point, though, once we finally acquired some clients and we're trying to figure out how to scale the operational side, was the processes that we had. And at the time we were using an internal WordPress, like wiki, basically, for all our processes. And the frustration was, hey, nobody's actually following the processes that we have. It's hard to plan out our work ahead of time, manage it all. And now we're telling people to go manage their work here, do their work here, and then go access the process somewhere else. So we started with another friend from college, this project internally to build our own software. Went to HubSpot's inbound conference in 2012, and everybody struggled with the same pain point. And so we were telling some people about what we were working on, and they were like, oh, you should sell that. So that turned into its own business, and we built a platform called Do Inbound. Grew it to about 500 agency customers using the tool. And yeah, I mean, we really have the unusual story, like you were hinting at, of being the agency who built the software. It all seemed like things were going well on the surface, and then went backwards a little bit into what we're doing now, which is a little bit of a modified services model, but essentially we're an agency for agencies in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And so I don't know if you follow Andrew Wilkinson, but last night on Twitter, I saw that he tweeted out his story. That he's the guy, they have Dribble, that really popular graphic design platform and whatnot. He tweeted out how I lost $10 million by doing something stupid. And they basically did the same thing. And they tried to go head to head with Asana for like 12 years. And burnt through 10 million bucks.
I saw that thread. I actually,
you did?
Yeah, I replied to it. I sent it to my business partner, Andrew. and was just saying that we didn't get as far as they got with Flow. The platform they built was actually pretty impressive. But I mean, that was ultimately what forced us out of the space, was the realization that, hey, we're not going to compete unless we're willing to play the same game, which is
Mm-hmm.
essentially the point of Andrew's thread of, hey, if you're going to compete
Mm-hmm.
in this space, don't try to, what does he say? Don't bring a knife to a gunfight. So
Yeah.
don't come in and try and do it from a bootstrap. Basecamp gets held up as the primo example,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not, maybe, there is the possibility to still do it, but those are few and far between for all the startups. And we were one of those folks who tried to do the same thing and then had to make a decision one way or the other.
Man, good thing you guys made the right one early on. It sounded
Yeah,
like
I
a
mean, that
pretty
was
painful
the
lesson.
lowest point. The lowest point in the journey, though, is you've got your identity tied to, hey, we're SaaS founders now. The valuation's way more attractive than, there's all these factors for why you'd want to be a SaaS tool
Mm-hmm.
versus a services based business. But at our, like, for both Andrew and I, it aligned well with our values and kind of personal way that we're wired. We're both definitely, we've got coaching backgrounds and enjoy kind of the coaching aspect of it and building things. And so, yeah, making the decision to not build our own software anymore, but to build a services layer on top of someone else's
Mm-hmm.
software has definitely been a
Yeah.
big move for us.
So let's talk about this. Asana has been the giant in the space, I think, for years, right? Guy spins out of Facebook, big name, big product, well executed, but it's actually not the one that you guys landed on as the one that you like to push forward and implement for people. So talk to me about, I have here that you guys evaluated something like 70 different tools when you
Yeah.
guys decided to go down this path. Talk to me about the one that you guys landed on.
Yeah. So we landed on ClickUp. I won't bury the lead here. ClickUp's the tool that we landed on, but went through, 71 different tools. This was kind of tail end of 2017 into early 2018, trying to figure out, hey, if we make this jump, who's got the right infrastructure and setup? And at the time, Asana was number 2 and Teamwork was number 3 out of the 71 different tools. And there's a couple specific reasons. I still love, I mean, the Asana interface, the speed, they've done a lot of things right. I think for a services based business, the hierarchy is relatively flat. So as opposed to a product based or, an engineering team,
Mm.
in a services based business, obviously agencies are one of those. You've got the layer that is your agency, then you've got your clients, then you've got your projects for those clients, then you've got the deliverables, the tasks, and your process element. And Asana is basically 2 layers of hierarchy short of what ClickUp had.
Mm.
And then the other piece was that, or there's a handful of different pieces that were important to us. But one of the main ones was the templating ability. So in the agency space, we're doing the same thing over and over. We might talk a little bit about onboarding later. Like, we're
Yeah,
running
definitely.
a standardized process for how people onboard their clients.
Mm-hmm.
And so the ability to deploy that from a template and say, here's the timeline that we want to have it rolled out. Here's who should get assigned. Here's the dependencies. Here's all the steps and processes in place. ClickUp was farther along. Asana's actually made a lot of progress in that area
Mm.
since then. And that's a little bit of at this point, it's becoming more of a feature parity type of thing where most of the main tools will have some element of that. And then we met Zeb and the early team at ClickUp relatively early
I
on.
was gonna
And
say, do you know them? Have you met them? Where are they out of?
yeah,
Like these guys are beast.
they are. They're moving insanely fast. Headquartered in San Diego.
Okay.
Um, and they were just awesome to interact with. The product velocity and improvements coming to the feature were just kind of crazy. And so that was a big part of our bet. And it could have easily gone the other way.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, they've paid it off in a big way. But that was kind of the third big
I
piece
mean,
was,
we at HighLevel, we move fast. We ship features quickly. But these guys, it's like, once
yeah,
you sign up and you get on the newsletter every week, it's like 5 new features
right.
that they've pushed out. Insane.
There was some fear, a little bit of trepidation initially of, man, are they going to push too fast? Is stuff going to come out broken and half baked and then
Mm-hmm.
it gets abandoned and whatever? And I think that there's some of that for sure, where a feature will get pushed. It's not fully, there's some improvements that are going to come from it pretty quickly. But what I really like about their model is the whole ClickApps infrastructure, where, hey, we're going to release a new feature. This is not a core feature. It's something that a lot of people have asked for. It's going to be
Mm.
optional. You have to toggle it on versus it's just on and cluttering the interface by default. I think that's a smart way to tackle it,
Hmm.
and it's allowed them to be able to push just a crazy amount of features without completely ruining the experience for the really simple users.
Yeah, I didn't even really realize that that's the way it goes. Um, Again, ClickUp, it's just so robust. Like, you and I are going to have a separate, put some time on the books to go through my ClickUp and make sure,
Sure.
help me use it more. Cause, I see all these features and I know the power of what it can do. And I'm just like barely scratching the surface, but I'm
Yeah.
curious, where does Monday.com fall on the list of the 71?
Monday, and they've grown a lot since then. They picked up a lot of traction. They were in the top 10. I have to pull up our list again to see.
Really? I mean, those guys talk about marketing beasts. Holy moly.
Right.
I can't go on YouTube without seeing a Monday ad.
Yeah.
And it's been like that for over a year at least.
They, I mean, this is part of the benefit of raising a lot of money was they drove a lot of awareness, and then that bought them the user base and the additional investor dollars to go continue building out the feature set. But yeah, Monday is, there's a couple things that people get hung up on any tool. There's a handful of things that people get hung up on. One of the common things, or one of the things that ClickUp, I think, brought to the table that is starting to work its way into other tools was this concept of views and being able to view stuff at different layers, kind of roll it up all up to an everything level. It's one of the common sticking points that we hear with agencies who are coming over from Monday. They say we can visualize these Gantt charts or workload allocation on all our individual projects, and we don't get it at a master level, or we're struggling to see things from across the entire ecosystem. But yeah,
the space is so fascinating. Like 71 tools you guys have evaluated. It's amazing to me that so many of them do still exist. Like we used to use Red Booth and I loved it. And I think they have a very passionate customer base, and but so many of them doing pretty much the same thing, but all in a little nuanced way. And they've all been able to, carry on.
So when we made the decision, we let all of our agencies know. Obviously the bulk of people said, okay, like if ClickUp's the way to go, then we'll make the jump. Some people said, no, we want to do our own analysis and evaluation, move over. But it took us, and it wound up costing us money. We shouldn't have done it this way, but we didn't want to pull the rug out from anybody. We wanted to take care of people who had invested in us early stage. So we kept the tool alive for about 2 years after we made the decision and announced it. And at the end, there were like 3 agencies who were still using it. But I think to some degree,
what tool is that?
The tool that we built, sorry, Do Inbound. Yeah, when we were agencies over from Do Inbound, and that spoke to just kind of the stickiness of once you're in, you've got a million things to work on. So jumping back and forth between systems is definitely a pain point. And there are agencies who will come to us and be like, "Hey, this hasn't worked well for 3 years, but we just haven't had time, and now it's a priority to tackle."
This goes back to our SaaS mode. We're trying to get agencies to realize that if you white label HighLevel, you sell it as software, you get it set up, they're stuck. Like people don't leave CRMs just overnight,
Right. Yeah, I think that is a big piece of it. And there's a lot of different, I can't tell if this is escalated. There's got to be an element of it that's in the agency space, but I would imagine this applies in every industry. But you get a lot of creative people who all think we're different, we're unique, we've got a different set of needs than anyone else would have in the entire world. And there's a lot of people with that mindset. So for some people, I want the really simplistic Basecamp interface, or I just want the Trello board. There's there's people who will prioritize that stuff. So
I'm always fascinated at how many companies just use Trello board, and I'm like, really?
How? Right?
Anyway, do you guys work with, if an agency comes to you like, hey, we really need you guys to help us out, but we really want to use Asana, will you work with that, or do you say no, it's ClickUp or bust?
Yeah, we don't. And there are cases because a lot of times for us in the sales process, we do get a lot of folks who've already made the decision or have already, and our customer base has shifted for sure, where for the first 2 years, it was 90% taking agencies, often introducing them to ClickUp and moving on to the platform. And today we're closer to 50-50 in terms of agencies who are making the switch and agencies who are already in it. And hey, you know what, we think we didn't set this up right. Maybe we need some help, or our processes aren't ready. So often in the sales process, there will be that's the first thing to try and break is, hey, does ClickUp work for you or does it not? Because from our side of things, in terms of being specialist in one platform and having the efficiencies that come from that, we're just going to focus on that piece. I think our business model, 90% of this is about getting your having a coherent way that you all work together, a smart system design, and then the team trained and held accountable to it. And it's not about, do we have ClickUp or Asana or Teamwork or the other platform? I think ClickUp's the best tool for most people, but that's really just a internal level or layer for us to make a bet on, hey, here's one platform to build on. So we're just
one thing. Let me ask you a question. I was always surprised to see these types of project management tools try to go after team chat. Does ClickUp do internal chat?
They do. Yeah.
And do you push it? Do you push it over Slack?
We don't right now. They do. They're actually investing. I don't know for every tool, but for a lot of tools, there's features that you push. At Do Inbound, we push time tracking because everyone asked for it and they wanted integrated. And it was a little bit of a, we'll check the box. We're not going to build a mobile app to do your time tracking. We're not going to build all this other stuff, but we can check the box for it and have that feature parity. And I thought that might be the case with ClickUp, where, hey, we want to be the one tool, we want to provide a Slack alternative, but realistically, for very light use cases, chat is fine. And if you want any type of integrations or the stuff that Slack is good at, you might not. So right now we don't push it. They actually are investing in it though, and there's an update coming out later this year, which is going to make the chat. It's going to solve the main issue with the chat right now. You're still not going to have the ability, at least initially, to do all the integrations and sync other tools to push into the chat like you do in Slack.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see if they make a real run at it. Because like you said, I feel like most people, they're just checking a box like, yeah, we have internal chat, and it's not robust at all.
Right.
So I'll be fascinated to see, because these guys aren't playing around. So that'll be interesting. So, all right, let's talk about this. I've personally experienced this. You spend a ton of time building a beautiful system and you're like, oh, chef's kiss. This is just going to change everything, right? Nothing can go wrong within this system. And then like 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in or whatever, you're like, what's going on? Why do we still have some chaos? And then you look and you're like, half the team is not using the system. And so it really falls apart immediately if not everybody is completely on board. So how do you guys approach that? You build it out, you've got it, it's like great, but the real challenge I feel like is getting everybody to buy in, to understand, and to actually use it the way it's supposed to be used.
Right. I'll walk you through a couple of the main things that we do, and then you can dig into pieces that either I confused you about or you want to go deeper on. The first piece is ClickUp's a little bit of the Trojan horse in our business model, where we're trying to come in and help agencies fix their processes as part of this. So not just get up and running on a tool with the same, if we just take the same bad processes that you have now and operationalize them, it's just a faster bad process. So can we fix some of that stuff? And as part of that, if we can get team members involved, key team members involved in building out those processes, which is important. We need their actual, hey, how do you actually do stuff today? We need to understand that and be able to iterate on it. That's a little bit of a buy-in layer. If people are part of it, obviously you're gaining some buy-in. Then I think the next piece is setting the vision. So we'll do like a team training session with the entire team and run through, here's the gold standard, here's what we want ClickUp to look like once you're in it in the day-to-day, and here's the outcomes where you have clarity on what exactly is on my list. All our work, our number one rule is, if it's not in ClickUp, it didn't happen.
Yes.
But if that's not a standard across the agency, if that expectation isn't set, then that's obviously not going to happen. Stuff will go to whatever the lowest friction medium is, which
email,
is normally Slack or email. Right. And then once we've kind of set those expectations, we'll put everyone, we've got an agency project management certification program that we put every single team member, full-time, part-time, contractor through. Whether you build that internally or work with somebody on the outside to have that, I think giving everyone, hey, here's our standard rules of engagement. Here's explicitly how you need to do it. And here's how you need to have these features set up inside the platform that we're using. That piece is big. And then on the back end, we take on every team and we assign one person as this is a cheesy name, but we call them the ClickUp champion. And it's basically that person internally who's going to be in the seat that you were sitting in and say, look, here's the rules that we have. Like, are we holding people accountable? And then we've got these specific rhythms we give them of, here's your daily spot check in ClickUp. Here's what you need to go through on a weekly roundup basis. And then here's the report you're giving back to your leadership team. And on a monthly basis, we'll run a monthly analysis and then a quarterly review. So there's these specific rhythms around it that if you don't have that accountability to it, as you experienced and you had to live through with policing that stuff, the best design system is gonna fall apart. No system stays the same. It either we degrades over time or
to the point where I'm going to have to become the bad cop on this. And every Friday I would just scan through everybody's dashboard And if there was overdue stuff in there, I had to come down on you. And it was like, how do we reward people for keeping everything up to date? Do we come down on people? But it it's a real problem if a handful of people are not keeping up, because it throws everything out of whack, right? Like
Right.
you instantly lose visibility on something. Whereas when everybody is keeping up, oh my gosh, the visibility, you come in, what, hey, CEO's asking about this. Oh, click, click, click. Ah, great. Here's where it is. That's when the next thing's going to happen. It's beautiful.
Right.
It's a game changer. And maybe you should talk about that a little bit. Like, what's a case study look like before and after?
Yeah. So we, an agency on the West Coast, 50-person agency, and they'd been through doing primarily in the paid social space,
Mm-hmm.
but had been through 3 different PM implementation projects before, and they'd also had one specifically where they tried to tackle processes as a piece of it. And so every time that you make a big shift, whether it's project management or anything, and it doesn't go well, you lose a little bit of your credibility and buy-in for the next one.
Mm,
So
true.
that's not, we're often not people's first swing at trying to get processes in place or getting into a project management platform. And so that's a problem that we have to solve for, is how do we get the team to realize this time's going to be different, or buy in, or at least do the things that they need to do until they start
Mm-hmm.
getting utility and value back from the system. So going through the process build side of things, that all, like, the process building wasn't, the services were relatively streamlined. We had a bunch of pre-built stuff that was close, and then took it and customized. Team training, a lot of objections, and then launch. And we always go through and we set everyone's expectations. There's always a trough of sorrow. You're going to go through a week or 2 weeks where it's a
Would
new
you call it a
system.
trough of sorrow?
Yeah, right. I mean, that's inevitable. There's this period of time where, hey, we're trying to build new habits, and it really sucks for a little while, because you
Yeah.
not only got to do your regular work, but now you need to go track it all, and the team's
Feels like
used to.
more. I
Yeah, it
keep
does.
having to go back and like document, but yeah,
Right.
you do.
And then we got a couple key people internally, like kind of the internal influencers, and you see this in agencies. There's always a couple, there's a handful of people who are not necessarily tied to their title, but more influential in terms of the internal
Mm-hmm.
team culture. They're sometimes the person who's most active on Slack. If you looked at their Slack numbers and DMs, like, this is the person who's talking with more people, or whatever that looks like. And once those people either secure their buy-in or they start to get value out of the system, which is the easier way to get their buy-in. But if you can identify and pull those people in, makes a huge difference in terms of getting everyone's buy-in. And then typically, at the end of a week or 2 weeks, you'll get more than half the team who's starting to get value. There was something that they needed context on, and they clicked into it and they found it, and the context was there. It wasn't a DM in Slack to go back and get
Mm-hmm.
it and find out what happened. And once a couple, you get enough of those light bulb moments stacked on top of each other, people start to, it makes a big difference. So we do a survey post implementation with people. We do a kind of a start and initial assessment survey of where the agency is at the beginning, and then on the back end where it is. And so the team clarity on the back end in terms of what they had was up. Everyone was enjoying the new system, but the biggest thing was the efficiency that they talked about. And this is always hard to quantify. We've had agencies who've looked at it and been able to increase their with the existing team, or basically team to client ratio, by as much as 300 or 350%. But it's so hard to quantify what that looks like, because there's a ton of different variables that we're controlling for. But that was the biggest thing for them, was just everyone having access to the right information and knowing where to find all that context. And then the second big win for them was onboarding. They were growing really quickly, adding somewhere between 4 and 6 team members a month to the team initially, and being able to onboard people with processes and context, and like, everything. Here's where you go for this, and you don't have to go to Dropbox and Drive and Slack and Teamwork and to all these different places. You just go to this one place, and the information's there. Was the biggest kind of sanity and time efficiency wins for them.
Yeah, for us, it just as important as managing projects was storing key information, right? So you knew you could go to that client, you could see all their passwords, everything that we needed to store, but also all the things that were in motion. And I think what was the biggest game changer for us was in Red Booth, they were called taskless templates, where basically, okay, they bought package B, load up template B, and we've got all the tasks, like all the onboarding stuff that needs to happen. And then, which I think is certainly true of ClickUp, and really exciting if you're using HighLevel, you tie it on the front end to, DocuSign or PandaDocs, like sales team stuff, right? Document got signed. Oh, task list template kicks off. Great. Whoever project manager starts going, and at some point they click something and boom, it webhooks out, and a high level sub account is automatically created. And like, so you can really scale, right? Like you can quickly imagine like, holy moly. Okay. Now we're talking. And once I did a spotlight yesterday that'll come out next week, of somebody who had the smash method, and you got to a certain point and it was like, first you need to master, and then you get to a point where you can start talking about scale. And that's it, man. Once you get to that point, now you're ready to go from 1 million to 2 million to 3 million as an agency. But like you really, until you're at that point, you're not even ready to scale. Right. And so I'm excited. We're actually talking about, it looks like we're going to move to ClickUp internally at HighLevel. A bunch of us are using our own ClickUp accounts, and we're all going to come together, and I'm sure we're going to enlist your services. But that's the most exciting piece, is scale, right? Like once you're set up, it's a quantum leap forward.
Yeah, I think getting that piece in place. So internally, someone signs up with us, they go right to a form. It doesn't really matter where the form is, but for us, it's a ClickUp form. We gather all their, they pay, they go to the form, they fill out the whole intake form. And then we can use that to go spin up all the other pieces. But you're exactly right. Like first you need to understand, what are those pieces? Do we have the right process? Are we actually tackling the right things? And once you have that, you can then take it and automate it. And then that'll go to, we keep an account dashboard inside ClickUp right now. That's one of the main things that we're setting up for each client is there one place, if I came and looked at your agency today, here's all the accounts that we're servicing, here's the services they get, here's the account health that they have, here's the KPIs they're shooting for, here's the team members who are working on the project, here's all that information that you're talking about. Here's where their drive files are stored, here's where their the key points of contact, and who's our main PLC and the channels that we're using, and all that kind of stuff in place. Having all that identified, what's the information that we need to have, centralize it, and then work towards automating it. And it's when it all comes together, it's beautiful.
Is there anything that's just like super cool that you absolutely love? Like, I feel like when I would go through their newsletters, I'm like, that's cool. And I never go check on that new thing.
The biggest thing, and this might not be as applicable to you in the agents, in any services business, it's, your time is basically your proxy for profitability. Because for most folks, we're largely selling, a degree of people's time. And so there's a million ways you could set up ClickUp, obviously. For us, for most agencies, we want to have a specific assignee, a specific due date, and a specific estimated amount of time. And that enables the workload view in ClickUp, which people are absolutely loving.
And is that Gantt or is that different?
It's a separate view from Gantt. Yeah, it'll show everyone's individual workload, what they have, spaced out by days. If you want to see a week at a time or 2 weeks at a time, what they have going on, and then go in and drag and drop off of there. A lot of agencies are using that to figure out, hey, I need to add this in. Who am I giving it to? Where am I putting
That's
it in?
actually key. That's a great point, because I remember when with Red Booth, we could see something similar, and it was really fascinating of like, oh man, this one team member keeps like telling me they're drowning, and like, are they really? I feel like, what are they working on? I can't, you know what I mean? And then you go and you can actually see the story. It's like, wow, they are drowning. They have twice as many tasks as anybody else.
That comes up all the time in agent. You get people who use it truthfully and people who are not using their time effectively. And now, obviously, the key thing, the point that I always make to agencies is that doesn't happen until you get those 3 variables that I talked about in place. So without that stuff, you're not going to have the ability to see. You might see what people totally have scheduled, but you don't see on what specific days, or you might see how much total work there is, but not who does what. So there's an element where you have to build the system before you get to harvest the data from it and benefit from that.
It was always so eye-opening to be able to go to the CEO and be like, you don't have the real picture. Let me show you this. And it's like, oh, wow. Like, oh, I forgot about that project. And like, oh, okay, that makes sense,
Yeah, that's awesome. The views, I think, are really cool. So the account dashboard, being able to slice and dice that, however you want to visualize it. So if you just want to see what accounts a specific person has, and see account health by this account manager versus this account manager, or account health spliced by service line. When we do Facebook ads, this is our account health. When we do other Google ads,
that's interesting.
SEO. So I think those are some of the pieces that I
That's
geeked
really
out
interesting.
over.
So how your package is affecting the health of that account. And then you can go say, hey, well, you know what?
Yep.
We thought Facebook ads was like our main service, but let's look at how much better the accounts that don't do Facebook ads are. You know what I mean? That type of analysis is
Yeah,
interesting.
and then combining that from what's the client results into what's the time that we spent. So, if we have 100 hours estimated this month for on the Facebook side and 100 hours on the Google side, we spent 60 on Facebook and 120 on Google. The things obviously have to be weighted together because time alone doesn't tell the whole story, but time plus
Mm-hmm.
results and
So
client impression
important
will obviously
for,
pay.
we used to do a ton of website projects.
Yeah,
And oh, how long is this going to take? Oh, your sales guy, oh, typically between 4 to 6 weeks. And then you
right.
actually go look and it's like the
Yeah, there's
average
no way.
time of completion is like way, way longer than that. And
Right,
so, but yeah, if you don't have it in there, you can't see that stuff. And so valuable when you do have it and you sit down to make decisions.
right. I love it from us. I do a lot of our intake calls on the front end.
Mm.
Myself and one other team member do most of our calls for folks. So in a sales context, if someone's talking to you and they say, "Okay, this all sounds great, but I want to know, have you helped anybody in New Zealand before, and specifically someone in New Zealand who does website stuff?"
Mm.
Because all those historical counts are categorized in the account dashboard, it's super easy to go grab the map view, which is kind of I thought that was a silly feature when they rolled it out. I actually love it now.
Mm.
The ability to take, we're capturing everyone's address when they work with us and then go see, okay, here's the 3 agencies who have worked with in New Zealand who also do web as one of their services. So being able to just filter
That is
down
interesting.
the data to grab, okay, I could connect them with this person, or here's someone who already recorded a video testimonial for us about this. I can send them these couple sales assets. So
That's
yeah,
really
build it.
interesting.
That's kind of what I use it for a ton is those almost not even, we're repurposing tasks to more of custom objects or record types inside ClickUp than just tasks in some of those cases.
So let me ask you about your services at Zen Pilot. Is it typically a one-off project or do you guys have an ongoing relationship? Because I could see like getting it all set up and then 2 months later, you're like, all right, I want to run this report. I have no idea how to do that. Gray, can you
Right.
can you guys show me how to run this report?
Yeah, kind of the average project for us. So we will do a project first, almost always.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if they're already in ClickUp, we'll often start with an audit first. If they're coming from another platform and everything's kind of vague, we'll start with an audit. But if they've already made the decision and a lot of this stuff is pretty similar, we'll jump in. We'll do somewhere between an 8-week and a 12-week project, but normally right in that kind of 10-week lane. Our average time to be live inside ClickUp right now is about 6.5 weeks to go live. And so we use the last couple weeks of our engagements together to tackle support and reports and run those spot checks and weekly roundups and stuff together. But it is pretty common then on the back end to work with folks. Some people are fine and are good to, hey, I'll come back and we'll schedule a call for 3 months down the road and see where things stand.
Mm.
And other people want to jump right into, hey, can we go operationalized, another piece that we didn't tackle, or can we build out other features, or is there other stuff that we can go jump right into? So that's
Gotcha.
that's common.
And so if somebody is hearing this and they're like, all right, we got to get our act together. Let's head over to Zen Pilot. You mentioned something to me and I don't want to say anything that I shouldn't.
Go for it.
Do you guys have a special rate or something that anybody who goes through you for their setup gets at ClickUp?
Yeah, we do. Yep. So yeah, there's a couple benefits that we're able to get people in terms of setting ClickUp up. So yeah, folks are welcome to email me, gray@zenpilot.com. Obviously, those specific rates are for our clients. ClickUp, we're not just supposed to publicize that and say, hey, here's just contact us. This will be our affiliate link. So yeah, happy to chat with anybody around the ClickUp side. The easiest way is probably Zen Pilot, either emailing me gray@zenpilot.com, and Gray's Gray because I've got a strange name, or zenpilot.com/demo is the link to schedule a demo of kind of what we've built for. One of the things that we pull out and helps us streamline a lot of this is kind of the pre-built ClickUp install and processes for agencies, which, because we're solely focused on agencies, it makes a lot of sense for us to have a lot of those assets already built for people. So there's at least a starting point.
So you mentioned that the ClickUp guys, that you've been there. Do they have a certified partner program or something? Are you guys one of them, or do you just you called them up one day and said, hey?
Yeah,
We need to meet up.
right. We do predate their vetted consultant program, but yeah, they have a vetted consultant program. I think it's clickup.com/consultants. So there's, I don't know how many people are in it now, but around 70 different consultants in the vetted consultants program, which we're in as well. It's an interesting mix of folks. We're in the minority there in terms of being specialized in a specific industry instead of just, hey, we know ClickUp well and we'll go um, whatever you want us to build in ClickUp, we can go build it in ClickUp. But yeah, they've built out that program now. And that's been really cool to see them continue to grow in that space. I think the program itself is still relatively early. There's a ton of potential for it though.
Well, I think you guys made the winning bet. These guys never could cease to impress with the way that they're innovating, and I think I'll be really curious to see where they go with their internal chat.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where that goes. I think the update that's coming out.
How would
later
you
this
rate their
year,
mobile app before we wrap up?
they have you played with the new version that's out?
I haven't.
Okay. It's much better than the original version. The key thing that it's missing for us, overall, I like it. I guess like a rating scale, if this is like school grades, it'd be like a B plus right now.
That's pretty good.
Key thing it's missing for us right now is the ability to time track on mobile, which is in the agency space. Everything else about it, I'm a fan of, and I know it's coming, but it can't come fast enough for me. So.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't talk about the mobile app, but man, if you're a CEO or you're a director, or, you're a team lead, having everything in your pocket is really freeing. I mean, there were days where it's like, oh, maybe I'll hang out at the cafe for an extra hour because I can just, monitor tasks, do reply, move things along from my phone. It's really a game changer.
Yeah. It's I'm excited for the other piece that's going to be built out in more detail on mobile is the dashboard side of things, and that's where I think things get really interesting.
Yeah, that's what I'm most excited to chat with you about is my dashboard view. I haven't optimized it. I know I'm not doing it right. I kind of know what I want to see on there.
Yeah.
And I was really, it wasn't too long ago until they announced more flexibility with the dashboard, right?
Right. Yeah, you can build most of the, are you guys using a separate BI business intelligence tool or a separate analytics tool? Or is everything kind of custom built in Google Analytics and then you're pulling it together?
There's a bunch of tools. I don't really have access to most of them on that side of things. And then there's tools like the devs all communicate within Clubhouse. And so that's their world, but we're missing this layer of ClickUp. And I think we've all come to realize that, we need to standardize and all get on the same page where we can swing each other tasks and follow along.
So internally, we use a tool called DataBox, which is a common recommendation that we'll make to agencies. But we get all of our activity data, all of our inputs out of ClickUp. And then we've got obviously our, what's happening on the front end from our CRM that gets pulled into DataBox. And the cool thing is in the dashboards in ClickUp, you can embed any public views from anywhere else back into ClickUp. So we can take our DataBox dashboards and put them on our ClickUp dashboards.
That's cool.
Dashboards on dashboards. So that's been
DataBox dashboards are beautiful.
Yeah. That DataBox, Data Studio from Google, there's a handful of tools that we see all the time, but the ability to then integrate those back into ClickUp has been really nice.
Cool. Well, great. Thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it, and I really look forward to what you can do for us internally.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thanks, Chase. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks everybody for watching. We will see you in the next one.